Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Sorry about all the delay and whatever we were trying to do. I think this is the first time we're trying to record the sessions in in the meetups. So I'll be kind of talking about um, the Bangalore CLJ website that we are planning for. It's a small initiative that we thought will actually try to connect um, the Clojure meetup folks uh, when we actually don't have the meetups, right? So the whole this whole thing's actually started with me posting actually a small post in the Google groups, and we were talking about how to kind of seamlessly connect all the Clojure folks. So I just posted in the Google groups, and we were actually trying to kind of get ideas from people, and I think that post is still there in the group. So it's I think this one. So this was my post. I think it was quite some time back. I think it was, yeah, I think it's basically a year back. Yeah, it's it's 2017 of August. Um, so we had a good amount of messages that flew in back for ideas and what we need to do and how things should go. Um, there were a good amount of ideas that came in. Uh, People said, you know, why don't we kind of have hackathons? And people are talking about why don't we have the libraries that all the organizations use um, for their usual production level code, and people spoke about why not have free volunteers doing sessions on the basic level and things like that. So this actually got us thinking, and we thought of kind of putting up a small GitHub page to start off with, um, and we were able to do that off late. So this is the Bangalore Clojure Group's page on GitHub. Um, it's a very new page. We are looking for contributors on a lot of aspects, including you know design and editorial and all the other things that we have to do. We have a lot of plans. We actually have a project board for this in the GitHub um, page. So I'll just take you through um, the. We have an organization. First of all, we have an organization called Bangalore CLJ, and we have two repos in there. One of the repos is called website. The other is called the GitHub.io. So this is the actual page. This is the actual public folder which is hosted, and this is the code for the website. And we have primarily tried to do this with uh, with a static generator called Cryogen, which is using Clojure. Um, so we we kind of just had two of these posts put in. This was done by Amajit on the previous meetups. So we are kind of pretty happy with what we have done right now, but we are looking at a lot more work that needs to go into this so that people kind of connect and people kind of contribute back also. Um, so this was one of the hack sessions that we had in the previous meetup. We have actually put that as a post in the GitHub pages. This happened in Nilenso. We had quite a bit of work that actually happened that in the last meetup. We also had quite a bit of folks who came in, and these are some of the pics that you're seeing. Um, so what's the rationale behind this is that we are trying to kind of um, get in a lot more people interested. Although this says Bangalore CLJ, and I think should not be restricted anyways to Bangalore CLJ. Um, we have been we have been kind of thinking about plans to revamp the theme that is applied here. This is one of the default themes that Cryogen gives us. It's called a blue theme or something like that. So we also have a lot of plans going forward. We're looking at things like, uh, group members actually posting articles here, group members actually proposing talks for the upcoming meetups. We are also looking at a page which might actually highlight the Clojure ecosystem, right? A page which will probably say, what are the 10 best libraries in Clojures? What are the top 10 Clojure repositories in GitHub? So we are trying to create another page which kind of will give the overall ecosystem and what's happening right now in Clojure, like stuff. We are trying to put up an events page, which will kind of probably highlight all the Clojure events happening at any given point in time. These are plans that we're still having, but there's a lot of workforce that we need to kind of achieve this. Um, so we actually have a project board for this actually. So I think this project board is still not public, I guess, right, Shantanu? It is. Okay, we need to have a look at that. But we have a project board where we are kind of trying to work with stuff, and we are trying to move things on the board. So we will be also putting in issues, and we'll be kind of using GitHub as a proper source of managing the source code. We'll be using the PR process, etc. So we'll be putting in more cards in here so that we kind of pick up all these things and start working. And we would like people to contribute back so that um, they raise a PR, and we have a bit of a bit of a communication and interaction that happens between set of people. So this is this is what I wanted to kind of talk about today. Um, we are very open to ideas. We are also open to anything that you don't find anywhere else, and you think that okay, this should show up here in the site, which will help actually the Clojure folks or the functional folks. We would very much like to kind of listen to your ideas and put them in there. Um, so that's more of it. Um, I can take questions now. Okay, you asked me how do you contribute articles to the site, right? So what we have done is actually we have yeah, we on the website itself we actually have a page which says contribute, and we have kind of given the steps that you need on contributing. So just to give you a little bit of an input on what Cryogen actually does. Cryogen is actually a static generator in Clojure. So what basically happens is Cryogen supports two formats. One is the Markdown, and the other is the ASCII doc format. So you can basically kind of create a pull request in GitHub and just basically post. So there are details here. You just need to create a post in Markdown format. So we are right now defaulting to Markdown. So you just write plain text Markdown in there, and then you kind of raise a PR, and then we kind of have a quick review on that and push it through. So Cryogen follows a very simple structure. So they have different kind of folders where you put in these things. So I think if you have to contribute a post or something like that, I think Cryogen puts it into something a folder called posts, I guess. I'll just quickly tell you what that is. Directory structure. So I think this is the directory structure of Cryogen. So you basically kind of in in MD, you basically kind of inside the post folder, you create another uh, markdown, and then you just create a PR for us. And one of us, whoever is kind of available, will kind of right now have a look at it and quickly push it through. If you're interested to kind of contribute back, also would be great. Or if you're kind of writing a post, also that also would be great. But um, just let us know, and we will help you out with if you're not able to kind of contribute and things like that. Right. Yes, you can. So your so Shantanu's question is that he's asking if we can kind of put in different medias, including videos or images, etc. So yeah, there is a folder called img here. You can put in media files in there, and we can actually kind of use a particular tag to kind of include them into the page. uh, Cryogen by default uses Selmer templating engine, and that has a particular format in which you kind of um, call the assets. Yes, you can do that. So I think Cryogen has support for syntax highlighting. Um, this actually is available in Markdown itself. So actually in Markdown, if you put kind of 3 backticks or something, and then put in your code and then close 3 backticks, it automatically kind of becomes a syntax highlighted code. This is something that Markdown itself supports by default. Cryogen also supports that. So you just have to put 3 ticks, back ticks, and then put in your code and close the 3 back ticks, and then that kind of will make it like a code. If at all it's not syntax highlighting properly, then what you need to do is before the 3 backticks, you just put what's the name of the language that you used. For example, if you use JSON and you think that it's not highlighting properly, you just say JSON and then start the 3 backticks. So that's, I think it's before the backticks. I think, I'm not sure. I'll just I think we can have a look at that though. Sorry. Right. So I have not gone through the internals of how Cryogen actually kind of does most of these things. So ideally, I think that should be how it is by default. Right. Yeah. So I think they use Cryogen uses highlight.js. So I think, yeah, backticks. And then if you want to specify the language, you do so after the first triple backtick. Yeah, you're right. So it's after the triple backtick, you kind of basically say it's JavaScript or JSON or whatever that you're writing, and then it kind of picks it up from there. Any more questions? Right. So, okay. So how this idea even started was that um, Clojure is kind of like a gem, right? It's kind of rare to kind of find information. Unlike if you look at something like a Ruby or other languages around. Clojure is one language. We also figured out that um, if you go to any of the usual places on the internet to find information, Clojure was one thing that you wouldn't kind of directly find the information. You kind of have to struggle hard for it, right? For example, if you go into YouTube and all that and find and try to find quality videos about Clojure, I think that's really kind of not happening. um, that's when we thought that somewhere on the internet we have to kind of collate all the data that we have, right? There are uh, I've been coming into this meetup for quite some time now, and we have had good speakers come and speak to us a lot of times, but um, we never got an opportunity to kind of record those talks or kind of take those slides from them and kind of upload them somewhere and things like that, right? We've not been doing something like that, but there is a lot of information that happens during every meetup. And we also felt that a lot of times most folks may not be able to catch up during the meetup. So we thought that even though we're not meeting in person, we thought that they should have a place where they can actually kind of go and interact with a lot of information and get information that they want. Um, some people told us beforehand telling that meetup is the same thing, but meetup doesn't let your people interact like how you would do it on a website. For example, in a website, you can have a separate page which says, okay, these are the slides for each of these meetups. You can have photos, you can have videos, but meetup is not that versatile for something like that, wherein people can consume information that easily there, right? So we thought, okay, let's go start with the website and let's start collating all the data there so that people can interact and and do kind of share their passion. um, Actually, the previous enclosure conference that happened, I spoke to a set of people, and some people from some cities actually told us that they don't even have a meetup group in their city, right? But we are fortunate enough in Bangalore to have a meetup group, and we are fortunate enough that we are also meeting every month. But still, it looks like information is kind of not available when we kind of need it. So that was the primary goal to do this, actually. Okay. Yeah, so we would also like to kind of get more information from you, telling what is that exactly you're trying to find on the internet, and why are you not finding it, so that maybe we can help you out with that in the site, right? For that particular piece of information. So um, yeah, thank you. Any more questions I can take? So by default, it should be about Clojure, right? So by default, it should be about Clojure, and we would also encourage people to kind of write stuff about functional, uh, you know, um, all these things around Lisp and all those kind of things are encouraged. But we would like to stick with what we usually enjoy doing, right? Basically, Clojure, functional, Lisp, these areas that we have tried to do. It's not going to be a very strict page wherein we say, okay, these are the rules, and we'll reject your article. That wouldn't happen. We will kind of take in your experience of learning Clojure, or how you got introduced to Clojure. We can do stuff like that also. So we are pretty much open right now. We are pretty much trying to kind of get in some traction on the website so that people have information. Yes, that's what I was talking about. I said that, yeah, I was talking about uh, articles can be about your first experience with Clojure, or your first experience with functional, or your first look at Lisp and things like that, right? um, I hope that answers your question though. Sure, that's a good idea. We will kind of look into that. Yes, we actually have to do that. Right. So yes, it really makes sense. So I was actually thinking about this sometime back. Um, I was actually thinking of, why not put a separate page in this site which actually has a live REPL, so that they can play around with it, and then we give them certain links to kind of actually reach. Right. So Shantana's question was, why don't we kind of have a page for newbies who come into Clojure, or who are trying to get information, that they need to kind of understand where to actually kind of go for the official website of Clojure, or where they can find more resources, etc. So right now, our about page doesn't have anything that's kind of linking back to the Clojure official site, etc. So um, that that the so I was thinking about this some days back about why not we put actually a Clojure REPL, a live REPL on the page there, so that people who come in can actually quickly kind of do, you know, 2 3 commands on the on the REPL and kind of see the output, and then kind of probably get excited about it, and then kind of go and click on the links and find other resources around. We are actually looking at doing something like that. Any more questions I can take? Okay, thank you.